Hello and welcome to the GW23 edition of the FPL School podcast. I am your host Matthias, and with me today I do not have my co-host Kevin because he is going to be a bit busy now because his brother is coming home from Asia after being there for about a month now. So yeah, he is coming back on an early flight, earlier than expected. So yeah, he would be arriving at around the time that we were supposed to record this podcast, which is now. So yeah, he's not available for this episode, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter that much because this is a very short and sweet episode in general because, it's been a pretty short and sweet game week overall. And we're not even finished with the game week. We still have 2 more matches left to go on the Thursday. I'm recording this on Wednesday night after the games have finished, Liverpool, Chelsea being the last one of them. There's still a lot to talk about though because there's been a lot of stuff happening. A lot of goals, a lot of weird performances, a lot of, not weird performances, kind of what we were expecting. City are back. Haaland came back, got subbed on for Kevin De Bruyne in the game against Burnley. And it was a typical Man City win where they have basically full control of the match. They score pretty early, get 2 goals, get 3 goals, and basically just coast from there and then concede a stupid goal towards the end of the match. So City are well and truly back, and it seems like they are just going to be going for it guns blazing to win the league as they have been doing for like most of the last few seasons since Guardiola took over. But Klopp is trying his best to stop them though in his last season for Liverpool. So yeah, Liverpool again looked fantastic against Chelsea, 4-1 win there. Darwin Núñez with the craziest 2-pointer of all time in FPL, hit the woodwork 4 times, which is a record in FPL or Premier League in general since they started recording that stuff in like 03-04 I think. And he ended up with 2 points despite a penalty miss, getting an assist, missing 2 big chances. Just a bunch of regular Darwin Núñez stuff as we come to expect it from him. But other than that, a lot of things happened this game week with a lot of really good players as well. A lot of standout performances from the likes of Elise. More template picks like Saka, Watkins, Alvarez. Those guys delivered every single one of those. Foden got an assist as well, and the clean sheet point, the 1 point extra for that as well. De Bruyne also got an assist before he subbed off too. So yeah, a lot of things to talk about, and haven't even touched on the new right back for Liverpool, Conor Bradley, with 1 goal and 2 assists in the same game for Liverpool, and a clean sheet of course. So 21 points for Conor Bradley, which is just amazing for anyone that has punted on him. Hats off to you, because I expected Trent to start this game. He didn't. He came on, and annoyingly for me, he blocked my 5 Branthwaite points off the bench, but still, he got some minutes at least, so he should be back for next week, unless Conor Bradley keeps him out of the team. But either way, I've rambled a bit too long for this intro. I'm just going to keep it pretty short and sweet this episode. I have to go to sleep after recording this as well, because I have work tomorrow. But yeah, let's go through the usual things that we do in this podcast, but there are actually just for a couple more things. There are a couple things that I have left out of this. Some of it will just be lost because it's a short game week, but the one thing that I will include is tomorrow in my team selection video, I will have the manager of the week after all the games have concluded and we know for sure who has been the highest scoring manager in the FPL Scope Mini League. And you can still join the FPL Scope Mini League and become the manager of the week next week if you haven't joined the league already. The league code is V9JT0D. So if you join the league and you have the highest score for one particular game week, you'll get featured on the podcast, as we'll talk about tomorrow in the team selection video. But let's go on to the next segment in the FPL Scope podcast, and that is Kevin's GW23 score. And he actually had a pretty interesting game week because he wildcarded. And he had a couple of big hits and a couple of big misses. As you can see, the team is pretty much very not template in general. He doesn't have Saka, doesn't have Watkins. Obviously, that hurt him massively because Watkins got 7 points, or massively. It's a bit of a stretch for Watkins there, but 10 points from Saka, 7 points from Watkins. Alvarez especially with 13 points because Kevin just jumped straight on to Haaland rather than Alvarez, just to save him for next week and save that transfer basically. That hurt his rank, Kevin, but he still ended up with 51 points, and that's mostly down to Michael Elise coming back and just getting 16 points for Crystal Palace, 2 assists, 1 goal. Terrific performance from him. There was some guy who recommended Elise last podcast, and that was me. But I didn't bring him in myself, so Once again, I have given pretty good advice and I haven't followed up on that advice myself. So yeah, pretty much a brain fart there for me. Other thing with Kevin, he went with Richarlison over Jota and captain Richarlison as well. That's basically why he did it. But in the end, Jota actually outscored Richarlison this game week as well as being a better option for the next few game weeks as well. At least assuming Liverpool still get the double game week, because that still hasn't been announced. So I don't know. The time's starting to run out for Liverpool to have a double game week 25, which would be a massive shift in terms of our planning, because they will still blank in 26. So yeah, Trent out, Salah out, all those guys out, Jota, Darwin eventually, I guess, would be sold. I guess maybe, I don't know. 24 is still good for them against Burnley at home, but game week 25, especially game week 26 when they blank, you could easily sell those Liverpool assets if they don't double in 25. But either way, Kevin went with Richarlison. That ended up with getting him 1 goal. Richarlison, though, still couldn't get any bonus points because he kept missing the target quite a few times. Lost the ball quite a few times, so he didn't get the bonus points. It was actually pretty even spread, I guess, with the bonus point system points for the Spurs-Brentford game. A lot of players with just a little bit more bonus than Richarlison. So 1 assist would have done wonders. One extra assist would have done wonders for Richarlison, because that would have been 3 assist points and then 3 bonus points most likely on top of that as well, which obviously would have been 12 more points for Kevin, which would have been amazing for him. But yeah, 14 points from Richarlison, 1 point from Pedro Porro, which is 9 less than Udogie, who's always been my guy this season, at least compared to Pedro Porro. But yeah, 1 point from Pedro Porro again, pretty disappointing. But what was encouraging, if you are still owning Pedro Porro, and a lot of you guys are, the encouraging thing was the fact that he was still on free kicks, or at least corners for Spurs, with Maddison back in the fold. So he should still have some decent value, but I think actually Udogie is a better valued prospect now, because he just keeps bombing forward and got 3 bonus points despite giving away 2 goals basically. But yeah, he was just really good offensively, and yeah, I think he's better for a cheaper price, at least in my eyes at least. But yeah, defense in general, pretty terrible this week. Gabriel conceded really late. Would have been a clean sheet for Arsenal, but they conceded a late goal. Avani was back early, which surprised me, and he scored, of course, because that's what Avani does. He is a potential option, who we might talk about later on in this podcast. And then Estepina with 0 points in that shocking 4-0 win for Luton against Brighton. Couldn't really see that coming at all, especially with Brighton being so sound defensively lately. Pretty surprising stuff. Also in that game, Kevin had Joao Pedro, who only got 2 points. He also had to be subbed off with an injury after 70 minutes, and that's going to be a bit of a theme for Kevin's team this week, which is kind of unlucky for him. Pedro got injured. Isak got injured before the half when Newcastle were 2-0 up against Aston Villa. So backing Newcastle was actually not the worst idea there, because they actually got a result against Aston Villa. But Isak wasn't amongst the goals for the first 2 goals. It was actually Fabian Schär with 2 goals. Himself. Isak nowhere near the goals, and didn't get an assist either. And then he had to be subbed off with an injury. And then Elise, after his monster performance, 2 assists, 1 goal, 16 points, amazing from Elise. He also had to be subbed off with an injury. And normally this wouldn't be too bad, especially back in January when we had or we're still in January technically while I'm recording this, but we're about to move to February in half an hour while I'm recording this. But earlier in January, it would have been nice, because you would have had 1 or 2 weeks at least for people to get back fit. But now it's such a short turnaround. The next game week is happening already on Saturday, Sunday. So yeah, not the best turnaround for Kevin, with 3 potential injuries on top of Taylor being injured on the bench as well for his wildcard. So that's basically for Kevin. He has used his free hit. He used his free hit in game week 8. So he can't use the free hit in game week 29. Or unlike me, I should say, because I am going to use my free hit in game week 29. But Kevin can't do that. So he had to sort of have that in mind when he made his team. So he has a couple Spurs players, Porro and Richarlison. They're going to play in game week 29. He has Taylor for Burnley, who's going to play in 29. And Pinnock for Brentford, who's going to play in game week 29 as well. He also has enough money in the bank to go straight from Richarlison to Salah if need be, if Salah is back fit for game 25, or even game 24 if he's back fit for that game week. So yeah, have to keep that in mind for the future game weeks. But in terms of his overall score, 7 points from De Bruyne, 6 from Foden, and 16 from Elise, and then 14 from Richarlison, basically made up the most of Kevin's points. He also has Areola left in goal, who could get some decent returns, I guess, against Bournemouth at home. But 51 points, pretty middle of the pack points-wise for Kevin. But he is kind of better set up for the double game weeks and the blank game week 29 as well with the wildcard that he used. But a couple mistakes, couple nice shouts, kind of in the middle of the pack wildcard, I would say. But also really unlucky with all the injuries and stuff. With Elvise, Isak, and Joao Pedro potentially all being out next game week, which would be really bad. But we'll get to that later. Moving on to someone who had an even better game week, and that is Kimo, our third founding member of the FPL School podcast. He did one move, and that was Salah to Jota, and that instantly returned for him with 9 points for Diogo Jota. He was actually the vice captain for Kimo as well, who captained Foden. So if he had gone Jota captain, that would have been even better. But yeah, Jota only had one goal, and that was basically it. I guess he actually won the penalty for Darwin, and then Darwin missed the penalty, which was, yeah, again, pretty crazy. His first missed penalty in his career after like 11 straight goals, I think. But he hit the post, obviously, and that wasn't enough for Darwin. But Kimo does not have Darwin. He has Jota only from Liverpool and Chimikas on the bench injured. He did actually sell Salah to get Jota, something that I did consider myself as well, but I kept Salah because I just keep hoping that Salah's going to be back. But looking at Liverpool right now, how they are playing and how they are scoring at ease, basically, it feels really bad to not have a single Liverpool attacker. So personally, I would probably have to find a way to get a Liverpool attacker, and that should be the same for Kevin as well, who doesn't have a Liverpool attacker either, until Salah comes back at least. But yeah, for Kimo, he got 7 points from Trippier. He actually started Branthwaite with 5 points. Kevin and I questioned why he did a -4 to bring in Branthwaite last game week, but I guess it was just a week early, where Branthwaite now paid dividends with the 5 points from the starting position. 7 points from Trippier, who got an assist for Newcastle. Could have had even more points as well. Could have had a clean sheet if they had just kept the clean sheet, basically. But 7 points from Trippier, really nice from him. Showed some promise for Newcastle. Newcastle showed some promise as well. I think they're going to improve quite a bit now with a lot more rest in the next. They have had a lot more rest now recently, and they managed to beat Aston Villa 3-1 away, which is a really impressive result. That's also the good thing for Kimo. He has Gordon on the bench, and Gordon looks like a really good option currently, I think, because he's probably going to play like de facto striker now, with Wilson and Isak most likely going to be out for game 23, playing Luton at home. Luton is no joke, as we've seen now, 4-0 win against Brighton, but still should be a good game on paper. Gordon has 3 really nice fixtures in a row now, and I think Gordon is actually a really good pick, and he might be featured in the weekly wildcard draft, which is going to have like a bit of a smaller segment tomorrow on the team selection video. But yeah, Gordon's nice on the bench. He was unlucky not to get points. He probably should have had an assist, but for some reason FPL removed the assist, even though it was a shot that was saved and hit the crossbar and went back again and got scored from Fabian Schär. But yeah, I digress. I don't really know what happened there. But yeah, Kimo score in general. He had Watkins and Alvarez, 7 points for Watkins, 13 points for Alvarez, 12 points for Foden as a captain, 10 points for Saka, 9 points from Diogo Jota. And then the defenders actually stepped up with Branthwaite and Trippier, sort of going a bit off the grid with 2 kind of different picks there. Especially Branthwaite is a bit of a different pick. Trippier is sort of like a holdover from a lot of game weeks back for Kimo, and he actually finally paid dividends and now has much easier fixtures going forward as well. So Trippier looks like a really good player going forward as well. So I kind of like Kimo's team, especially with Konsa having a pretty good game next week as well for Aston Villa. He was benched for this game nicely as well. 1 point from Konsa, 5 points for Branthwaite, so good decision there from Kimo as well. But that was pretty much Kimo's game week. 67 points, really good for him. Brings him closer to the likes of me in the table. It's going to be pretty nice dogfight between me and him for the title in the FPL Scope, the internal FPL Scope podcast league with me, Kimo, and Kevin. Kevin is sort of falling behind just a bit, but yeah, he might still get a chance to get back into the fold, I guess. Next up, we are not going to talk about the manager of the week. Like I said, I'm going to have that on the video tomorrow in the team section video, which is going to be pretty massive since I have to do like a weekly wildcard segment there where I'm going to talk about most players. I'm going to do the free hit, going to do my own team selection and thoughts, and pretty much everything in that video. So that's going to be a lot of content coming out on Friday, probably later on in the day, because I probably not going to record that Thursday night because I'm going to watch the games at my old home, I guess, with my parents and my brother. So yeah, that's a personal story that you don't really need to worry about in an FPL Scope podcast. But Let's move on to the next segment, which is the score prediction results from GW23. And yes, it's not quite finished yet. We still have 2 more games to go, West Ham against Bournemouth and Wolves against Man United. But for now, both me and Kevin have had 5 correct results, and we do have the same predicted results in the final 2 games as well. So we'll end this game, or this game week at least, with the same amount of correct results. But we might have some different results, as we've seen. But in general, it's pretty close. Liverpool-Chelsea could have easily been 3-1. Both of Kevin and I could have had the correct scoreline for that one, but then Darwin Núñez decided to pass the ball to Luis Diaz for a 4th goal, so that ended up being 4-1 instead of 3-1 for Liverpool. Spurs-Brentford, we were both onto something. I had a 2-1 win for Spurs. He had a 4-2 win for Spurs. And it easily could have been both of those things, because Spurs took the lead 2-1 and then conceded again and then scored again. Or they scored 3-1 and then conceded again. And could have scored again to make it 4-2, but both me and Kevin were close, but not close enough to get the correct scoreline there, but at least we got the correct result. Same goes for Man City against Burnley. I had 4-0, he had 5-0. Man City were sort of happy with 3-0, and then they conceded a stupid goal towards the end, which they usually kind of do. And yeah, following up from going from down and up basically on this table, Aston Villa against Newcastle. We both expected Aston Villa to win that game, but that did not happen. 3-1 win for Newcastle. Pretty interesting result there. Crystal Palace against Sheffield United, I had as 1-1, but this prediction was before I knew Michael Olise was going to be back in the fold. So I definitely would have predicted a Crystal Palace win if I knew Olise was fully back when I made this prediction. So yeah, kind of a downer there for me, but Kevin got the correct result in that game with 2-0 for Crystal Palace, or Crystal Palace win at least. Didn't get the correct scoreline because Crystal Palace ended up winning 3-2, but yeah, nice game there for Crystal Palace with Olise and Esse back in the fold at the same time, which is always a huge plus for them. Luton against Brighton, we both expected Brighton to win 2-1 away from home, but Kenilworth Road has shown to be, or proven to be, a really tough ground to be to be playing at basically this season. 4-0 for Luton, hat-trick from Adebayo. Absolutely amazing stuff. You don't really expect to see that, but yeah, just wonderful for Luton, who might actually stay up this season, which is kind of interesting. I had them I had them going down before the start of the season, but I didn't have them as the worst team because I thought Sheffield United were just a lot worse after selling 2 of their best players this summer. And I did actually have some faith in Luton, but I did sort of expect them to go down as well. But they might still go down, but they are going down with they aren't going down without a fight, I should say. Fulham against Everton. I predicted a draw. Kevin predicted an Everton win. It probably should have been an Everton win, but it ended up being a draw, so I get the correct result in that one. Kevin gets nothing from that game. Only 1 point as an Everton fan for Kevin. But yeah, Everton probably should have won that game as well, but ended up 0-0. Kind of boring game, which is going to be forgotten because it was in between a lot of other games that were more important and more interesting to watch, I guess. Nottingham Forest against Arsenal. Both Kevin and I had a 3-1 win for Arsenal, and it ended up being 2-1, so that was pretty close. Nottingham Forest actually made the game really close towards the end as well with the goal from Awani, but it just wasn't meant to be for them. But Gabriel Jesus had a really nice game. Saka scored as well. So yeah, a good run out for Arsenal in general. But that is the score prediction results for this past game week. Now let's take a look at our predictions for next game week. And let's just go down through all the games and just quickly comment on all of them. Everton Spurs is the first game of the game week, and I have predicted a 3-1 loss for Everton, where Spurs win 3-1 away. And Kevin has predicted a 2-1 win for Everton, and that's pretty much just him backing his own favorite team, I guess. But yeah, I expect Spurs to still continue to score goals. Maddison is obviously a huge plus to them. They have all their players back, basically. Son might even be... he's not going to be back for this one. They were close to getting Son back for this game week because South Korea were basically a minute away from being knocked out of the Asian Cup. But then they scored in injury time in regular play, and then they managed to win after a penalty shootout. So Son is not going to come back just yet, but he might be back pretty soon at least, which is going to make Spurs a pretty huge force to be reckoned with. But they do have that blank game week as well in game week 26, so it's going to be tough to bring in any Spurs assets before they are finished with that blank game week at least. But I expected a pretty nice win for them. But Everton are really tough to score against. So 3 goals for Spurs seems a bit much. But yeah, Spurs score at will. Everton keep a lot of clean sheets, especially lately. So this game could go either way really. But I just back Spurs as the better team in this fixture. Brighton against Crystal Palace. I think this is a sort of a tough game to predict, but at the same time, I normally just predict 1-1 because I feel like that's always the result between these two teams in the, M23 derby or whatever. One of the strangest derbies in all of England, at least. I predicted 1-1, and Kevin has actually predicted 2-2, so Could go either way. It just really depends on Crystal Palace. If they have Eze and Elise both fit, I think they could easily win this game. If they have neither fit, I think Brighton could easily win this game. And if they have one of them fit, it probably ends up a draw. So yeah, probably ends up a draw, I should say. I would say in the end. Burnley-Fulham, another game that is pretty tough to sort of predict. I think it's going to be a pretty evenly fought game, pretty close game. I have 1-0 for Burnley, just because I think they need to win these types of games to have any chance of staying up. But Kevin has gone with 1-1 for Fulham, or not for Fulham, 1-1 in this game between Burnley and Fulham. And yeah, kind of not that interested in that game anyway, so don't really need to talk much more about it. Newcastle-Luton, I expect Newcastle to win, but not by too much, because I think Luton have been pretty good lately. So I expect a 3-2 win for Newcastle. Kevin has way more faith in Newcastle and way less faith in Luton, it seems like, because he has predicted 4-1 for Newcastle in this game. And I could see that, I guess, because Newcastle are really good at home, but at the same time, they did lose to Nottingham Forest at home not too long ago, I think. So anything could happen in this game as well, but I think Newcastle have better players and more firepower to win this game. But they are playing without a striker, most likely, with Isak most likely being out and Callum Wilson still not fully fit to play. So this might be more of a struggle for Newcastle than especially what Kevin thinks, but I think Newcastle will eke out a win in the end. Sheffield United against Aston Villa, I think this is also going to be probably a bit tighter than most people expect, but I think in the end Aston Villa will end up being the winners. I think Aston Villa are still looking decent. They had a couple of nice chances. Watkins even could have had a brace in this game. It was just a little bit too early on a run for a second goal there, Watkins. But Watkins still looks really good, and I think Aston Villa will be able to beat Sheffield United. Sheffield United are kind of tough to gauge. They did get a draw quite luckily against West Ham. In Game Week 21, Game Week 22, they fell just a little bit short to Crystal Palace just because of the wonders of Michael Olise scoring the final goal there. But I think they have what it takes to make each and every game now pretty close at least, but they are also losing those games. So that's what I've gone with a 2-1 win for Aston Villa, while Kevin has gone with a 3-1 win for Aston Villa. Bournemouth against Nottingham Forest, and this is basically the reverse fixture of when Solanke scored a hat-trick last time, so I'm expecting big things from Solanke in this game week. So I've gone with a 3-1 win for Bournemouth. It's going to be tough to know what to make of Bournemouth really after, or at least before the West Ham game, because Bournemouth haven't looked the best lately, but they have looked really good right before that as well. So really hard to gauge Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest, to be honest, because Nottingham Forest have had sort of like an up and down sort of form since Nuno Espirito Santo took over. I still think they struggled quite a bit, so I think 3-1 seems like a fair result. 2-1 is what Kevin is going with. Again, a Bournemouth win. I could definitely see that as well. But yeah, I think it's just going to be a bunch of goals at least in this game. But I think Bournemouth are just a stronger team, and playing at home as well is going to help them immensely. Chelsea Wolves, I have 1-1 in this game. I just think these teams are kind of the same sort of level currently. Liverpool or Chelsea just haven't really figured out much yet. And Wolves also are like in the middle of the pack, sort of. But yeah, Wolves have been pretty good lately, or this season in general, I think, especially in these big games. So I think they could get a draw even away at Stamford Bridge. But Kevin does not feel that way. He has 3-0 for Chelsea, which I could see, I guess, because Chelsea have better players, the more expensive players, obviously. So they should really win this game. But yeah, I think these teams are just pretty equal currently. So I've gone 1-1, but it might be 3-0 for Chelsea. Who knows? Man United against West Ham. I have gone with a 2-1 West Ham win, because I think West Ham have a pretty good, pretty good run of form against Man United in general. Don't really have much faith in Man United so far this season, and I think this could be a nice win for my personal favorite team, West Ham. Just in case you didn't know I was biased in this prediction, but Kevin, who is not biased, I guess, has gone with the 2-1 Man United win, and I could see that happening as well. Man United seem to eke out these wins this season, but who knows really what's going to happen, especially now before Man United's game against Wolves on Thursday. So could go either way, but I think I'm going to back West Ham in this game, especially with Kudus back fully fit, and or not fully fit, but back from AFCON, and Bowen fully fit, potentially Paqueta as well back for this game, and Calvin Phillips as well, who could come in and really do a nice job there for West Ham. So really interesting game to see, and there's still some time left of the January transfer window as I'm recording this, so maybe some more signings for West Ham as well. Maybe a winger, maybe they get Ibrahim Osman from the Danish league, or they get someone like Jota, not the Liverpool Jota, but the one who played for Celtic and then went to Saudi Arabia, because he's also linked with West Ham, so that could help West Ham in this game as well. Next game is the big one, Arsenal against Liverpool. And Kevin and I are actually in complete agreement here. 2-2 in this massive game. Arsenal, Liverpool, both teams sort of have to win. This is going to decide who's going to be the main challenger for Man City this season for the title, I think. Currently, it seems like Liverpool are doing really well, but it seems also like Salah is not going to make this game, according to Klopp. He missed this game week, and he's going to miss the next game week as well, which is game week 23. But that was the only thing Klopp said, which means to me that I think he might get some minutes against Burnley in game week 24, potentially, and then play in game week 25 with the double game week fixtures if they get the double. So that's something to keep in mind for Salah. But yeah, I think this is just going to be one of those crazy games like we had last season. I think last season Arsenal were up 2-0, and then that incident where Trent and the crowd and stuff happened, and then it ended up being 2-2. And then since then Liverpool had just been really, really good. But it's away from home for Liverpool, which is always tough for them. At least tougher than Anfield, where they are absolutely amazing. And Arsenal at home, and Arsenal really need to step up in this game. So I could easily see a 2-2 game where Declan Rice scores the all-important equalizer towards the end of the match to make it 2-2. Could easily see that happening. So yeah, gonna be a fun game, I think, and like the main game to look out for this upcoming game week. And then finally, we have the team that I was talking about as the main title challengers this season, and that's the defending champions Man City, playing away to Brentford, the only team that managed to beat Man City twice last season. But I think Brentford currently, without Mbeumo and without some other key players, Rico Henry and some other players that I'm missing, I think it's going to be too tough for them, even at home to Man City. I think it's going to be too tough for them with Man City having all their players back. I think this game is a game where Pep Guardiola really wants to make a stand and show that City are actually for real and are actually going to win the title for the fourth time in a row, which has never happened in the Premier League history. So yeah, 3-1 win is what both Kevin and I have predicted this game. Seems again like a typical City result, that they sort of cruise to an easy win and then they can concede a stupid goal towards the end. Ivan Toney might score again. He's been absolutely fantastic since coming back from suspension, and I suspect that he could score in this game as well. So 3-1 for City seems like a reasonable result in general. So that is basically it for the score predictions for this upcoming game week as well. Let's see what happens between me and Kevin in the whole in this basically season series. Currently, he has a lead in the correct result section with 115 correct results compared to my 96 correct results. But in the correct scorelines, I've actually outdone him by 1. I have 16 correct scorelines this season, and Kevin has 5 correct scorelines correct scorelines this season. Next up, let's talk about Kevin's Gaming 23 plans. As you can see, a lot of yellow flags, way more yellow flags than what you'd like after a wildcard, but Olise, Joe Pedro, Isak all had to be subbed off with injuries in this game week, which is really, really bad luck for Kevin. So ideally, he'd have someone else up front. I think he talked about Darwin as well. He was pretty close to having Darwin rather than Isak, but as a fellow Swede, for Kevin that is, I'm Norwegian, I'm not Swedish. Kevin's fellow Swedish compatriots, Isak has always been like a alluring player for Kevin. And you can see with Newcastle how good they are attacking wise, and also their good fixtures, Luton at home and then 2 other good fixtures after that. Nottingham Forest at home, or Nottingham Forest away, I think, and then some decent team at home as well. You could see why Isak would be a really nice prospect for Kevin, but now he's injured, and I think he's also the most likely to be out for a longer time because he has a reoccurring hamstring issue, which is going to keep him out for longer. I think Olise should be fine. Joe Pedro potentially is fine as well, but Brighton could easily also play Evan Ferguson finally up front. So yeah, he's in a bit of a conundrum here, Kevin, and might even have to do a -4 the week after a wildcard. So that's the negative part. He does have 6.1 million saved up in the bank in case he needs to do Salah back into his team rather than Richarlison. So he could easily do that eventually, but that means he has to save money or earn even more money with his transfers. But luckily for him, Isak is quite an expensive striker, so you can get a lot of players for the same price or cheaper. For about the same price, you have Darwin Núñez, who after the 2-pointer today, I'm not sure if he's going to go up or down in price or just stay where he is at. But currently, Isak is 0.1 more worth than Darwin, so Kevin could easily do that move and still have enough money in the bank for the Richarlison to Salah move, I should say. So that's definitely on the cards. I think Darwin is a really good option. He has a double game week, obviously. He is vital to what Liverpool do. And as we've seen from the games, like he has enough chances to get like a massive, super high score in double game 25, so I wouldn't put it past him to be amazing in that game. And potentially even against Arsenal now and Burnley as well in game 24. So Darwin seems like the standout option, I guess. But I also really like Solanke. He doesn't have a double game week in game 25, obviously, and Liverpool still might not have that. It still hasn't been announced, at least at the time of this recording. But what Solanke does have is a really nice game against Nottingham Forest at home this week. I think that's a really nice game for him, especially seeing as he scored a hat-trick last time he played them. So I think he's, excuse me, a decent option, Solanke. You also have Amani on the opposite side. He looks really good. He came back, played a half for Nottingham Forest and scored against Arsenal, so I could easily see him do well as well. And he's also a bit cheaper, and he also plays in game 29, which is what Kevin really needs. So he has a couple options there for game 29. Both Awoniyi and Adebayo play each other actually in game 29. That game is confirmed to be happening because both teams are out of the FA Cup. So either Awoniyi or Adebayo would be also a really nice change of pace for Kevin, and will give him more money in the bank as well to do even more moves and upgrade someone else if he needs to. But currently I can't really see who he would upgrade either, unless it would be selling one of the players that actually play in game week 29, like Pinnock or Taylor, for example. He could just upgrade Richarlison for now. Maybe Richarlison loses his place when Son is back. I don't think so. He scored again. He scored 7 goals in 7 games, so he most likely stays as a striker and Son playing on the left when Son comes back. So yeah, I think Richarlison's a nice hold for now at least. But if he gets the extra money, especially from doing Isak to Awoniyi or even Adebayo, he does have a lot of options. Maybe Estepinian to Trent as well could be on the cards. I haven't really checked if he can do that. He probably can do that if he does Isak to Adebayo, for example, because Adebayo is only 4.8 and has pretty good fixtures as well, and has the double in game 25. So, but it depends. Kevin has Palmer, Richarlison, Porro. Doesn't have many Liverpool players, to be fair, for the double game week, so or the blank game week in 26. So he could potentially get away with getting in a Luton attacker, even though they blank in 26. But yeah, that's just an option for Kevin, I guess. But I think Isak out is a sensible move for Kevin. He basically needs to do a transfer because he has 3 players flagged. And he needs all the starters he can get. But luckily for Kevin, at least, he has Haaland already. Doesn't have to worry about that. Can just captain Haaland against Brentford away. Seems like an easy decision for me. With De Bruyne as vice captain and then Foden as well. Also remains to be seen if Foden or Alvarez are like the best third City asset in attack. Maybe even Doku might be the better asset in attack for City. But it's hard to gauge City, I think, in general. I think De Bruyne and Haaland will play most matches. But other than that, it's just really hard to predict who's going to start, apart from Ederson, I guess, but he's just not an option. Got a yellow card today as well and conceded a stupid goal, like always, so stay away from Ederson if you're tempted by him, I guess. But in general, I think this is a pretty good team for Kevin, assuming most players are fit. If João Pedro's back fit and Elise are back fit and play each other, they could both score goals. They could both score penalties, to be fair, because I think they are both penalty takers for the team. For some reason, most people think Eze is still the penalty taker for Palace, even though Elise took a penalty last time they were both on the pitch. So I'm sort of leaning more towards Elise, but I think it's sort of like a 50-50 call there, whether it's Elise or Eze taking the pen. It might be just down to who wins the pen, to be honest. But in general, like I said, I think it's a decent team for Kevin. It's just unlucky with injuries. So if he gets some bad injury news on João Pedro or Elise on top of Isak, maybe he has to do a -4. But yeah, we'll see what happens there with Kevin's team. Next and finally, we have Kimo's plans for game 23. Kimo has saved up an amazing 11.2 in the bank because he did the Salah to Jota move last game week. And that means he could easily do Alvarez to Haaland without any issues. It also means he can even do João Pedro to Haaland without any issues if João Pedro is indeed out injured for a longer time now. And looking at how good Alvarez looked now in this past game, maybe it's better to keep him, but at the same time, he looked good in the striker position, which is going to be taken up by Haaland. So I think Alvarez to Haaland is still a pretty easy move to do if João Pedro is back fully fit for this game. But in general, really nice team for Kimo. Cons against Sheffield United away should be decent for him, even though Sheffield United have scored quite a few goals lately. 2 goals in each of the last 2 games. So maybe that's a tougher game for Konsa and Aston Villa, who just seem to concede every game. Trippier against Luton at home, really nice for him. Same with Gordon against Luton at home. Really nice for him. Saka against Liverpool at home, not the best, but But yeah, I think it's all right. It's just another decision here as well. If Joe Pedro's fit to play, who gets benched? Is it Jota who gets benched against Arsenal away? Currently, I don't really think so. I have listed him up as a bench player here. Probably would start him over Saka currently. But apart from that, maybe over Palmer against Wolves seems like too good. You can't really bench Palmer. I should know because I benched his 18 points. Foden against Brentford away. Maybe he's the one to bench. I don't know. With KDB back, Foden hasn't really rested that much in general. So maybe Foden out for Jota might be the best case scenario here, but yeah, I don't really know. But I'll rest to Haaland, and then captaining Haaland seems like a pretty sensible decision as well for Kimo. But yeah, we'll see what he does as well. But that's basically it for the FPL Scope podcast this week. Had to do it by myself and just basically ran through it pretty quickly. It's actually shorter, most likely, than what my team selection video tomorrow is going to be. And before that video, I'm probably going to drink some water because I've been sort of struggling with a not a sore throat, but dry throat, I should say. Either way, I'm going to go get lubricated, I guess, drink some water. And that's it for this video. Subscribe if you like this channel, if you've seen it before. If it's your first time, you're more than welcome to subscribe. Either way, trying to get to 1,000 subscribers at least pretty soon. Like the video, that helps with the algorithm as well. And yeah, just keep loving life, I guess. If you're not loving life, and I'm sorry about that. I hope it gets better, and hopefully I can help it get better. I don't know, maybe. We'll see. If I help you with FPL points, it will definitely get better. So keep subscribing if you keep subscribing. Do subscribe and keep watching if you want the best FPL tips out there, I guess, maybe. Either way, that's me saying goodbye to you. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching.